don't know the German side of the picture. There was also something going on in Germany.
You are the first
Also
caller.
2009
Please on
it was
hold
from
until
the
the next
Beta
caller
platform.
arrives.
Beta platform was funded by the Chancellor Merkel in Telekom, and we also did our test beds or our facility of output in the context of several projects with a Beta platform, and we were told to let the server stay online for at least 5 years, so that upcoming researchers might use I will not tell it doesn't exist anymore. So it is again back. Somehow it is clicking automatically.
No, it's fine. It's just administrative. Yeah.
Okay, and in some way, I don't know, is everybody here on the table familiar with the EIT ICT? Okay, wrong question. Who is not? You? You don't know about it. Okay. It's not so easy to explain in 2 sentences, but the EIT ICT is also working with European taxpayers' monies. It's also like DG Connect or like the Commission funding research projects, but with a different way of organizing the funding, where funding is being allocated on a year-by-year basis, in contrast to a project-specific basis, which allows an EIT ICT project to be funded continuously, sustainably. So there's a different way of funding. And on another page, the EIT ICT is also, what you see in the next slide, also very much focusing on the innovation part. Innovation is going to market with products. Innovation means stimulating SMEs, going the whole loop, like from academic research to pre-products and prototypes to innovation to the market. So this is it. And these are some slides from the EIT ICT, and they sound pretty challenging to us. And I'm not sure how your opinion with this regard is. There is a paradox, which is we Europeans, we are doing really great research in the IC and ICT sector since years, but the actual business is going on in the States. And this didn't change. And the outcome of our projects, I mean, I hope that Mauricio is telling a different story with regards to the outcome and the many 800 SMEs which are going to be running on the CIFA infrastructure and how this is stimulating the market. But the outcome of many European research programs or projects was that in the end there was no really business created, but it was a really research-focused project. So this is the EIT ICT. It started with the 5 big dots, only 5 nodes, and then it extended through so-called affiliated nodes. And now it covers basically all of Europe, and everybody can participate in EIT ICT projects almost everywhere in Europe. As I said, the 3 cornerstones of EIT ICT can be defined as the ERI, education, research, and innovation. Okay, business, it changed to business, for innovation was not clear enough. They really want to stimulate the market. In the end, you have to fill out KPIs. When you apply for a project, you really have to say how many people, what product will you bring to market someday afterwards. So they are really focusing on the bottom thing. And this is exactly why they want us, who are coming from FIA since years, to provide the last bit, which is the nice federation tools, the already existing frameworks and protocols, and the last bit is what would it need to actually use that stuff which we are currently developing and evolving in Fed for FIA. Also, what would it mean to use this stuff to go to market with experts? So, and therefore the EIT ICT is already in close touch with DG Connect, and there's communication going on there. with regards to how about to create one single such facility for the both of us, for the EIT as well as for FIA. And CI FIA is a child which was born out of this context, basically, which is providing the link between EIT, ICT, and FIA, where specifically also our work is highly relevant and bridging the gap between the FIA initiative and the EIT, ICT. So I expect that in the future there will not be two, a FIA commercial portal and an EIT, ICT commercial portal, but only one. So, what did we do in order to come up with a commercial infrastructure through which experimenters can, or SMEs can discover resources, tested resources, provisional resources, reserve resources, to a large extent also use remotely, interconnect with other test beds, conduct experiments and tests, and pay for the usage on an on-demand basis. So this is the fantastic project which has started already in 2013. 2013 was a year where we were drilling deeply into business models and operational models. The operational model gave us the last bit technical-wise. The business model gave us a clear picture on how we should go to market with such an offering, tested as a service, TAAS. And this year is the year where we are currently developing the last bit, deploying the facility at the EIT ICT Co-location Center in Berlin, federating French and German test bed, and having from Q3 the first experiment, the first SMEs using our infrastructure. You have to speed up. So the test bed in the middle, researchers, SMEs, and students on top, and test bed owners and providers on the bottom. It's clear it's a double-sided market. The double-sided market means this facility here is approaching its customers, predominantly SMEs, with one offering, whereas here there is competition and should be competition. Why we use the eTOM? Because the eTOM, this is the Enhanced Telecom Operations Map. This is a blueprint. You would tell me if I only have 5 minutes left. Yeah? That's good. Sure. Why we use eTOM? eTOM is being used in telecommunication enterprises. And eTOM, the Enhanced Telecom Operation, is a blueprint for the operational map. And eTOM covers all the processes that a telecom really requires in order to have a customer relationship management, a service management, a resource management, and a supplier partner relationship management. Why is this so relevant for us? The customers, of course, are the SMEs and the experimenters. The services are our testing services, of course. The resources are the resources of the test beds, and the suppliers and partners are the owners of the test beds themselves. So there is a clear similarity between what a telecom operator and a test bed as a service provider undergoes in terms of operations. And these are all the operations of these 3 levels. And we were going through all of those, the customer relationship stuff involving selling and interface to the customer, billing and problem management, service management, resource management, and here also problems with the supplier. And we realized that currently, especially the red dots are not being tackled sufficiently in FIA.
5 minutes.
So we are lacking operational and functionalities for the red dots, which clearly are those ones which nobody needed yet for FIA, because they don't need charging, they don't need billing, and so on and so forth. So 2 words about the business plan. Business plan. First and foremost, we thought it's important to have a clear structure for our resources. And we really focused on every tiny bit in our test beds, whether we can give it a label. So we went through, what is it? Is it a mobile test bed, a fixed or satellite test bed? What is it? Is it an enabler? And then we said, okay, a broadband test bed for a day, 20, whatever, 1,000 euro, 200, whatever. So we gave it a structure with the providers or the users of these test beds. But that seemed to be not sufficient, and therefore I am still thankful for the very good telephone call with Stefan, because we realized that for the 5 business models or the 5 services, which is advice, the advisor role, the matchmaker role, the one-stop shop role, and integrator role, this is all from the FEDSM project who came up with a business model. From those, we underestimated the importance of the advice and the matchmaker. It's not only about technology, it's also about people supporting SMEs in conducting their tests. So we really have to give this a price tag too, and therefore we came up with an extended table where we also provided test strategy definitions, consultancy service, all these things that human beings are doing, and gave them also a price tag. So together we have a price tag for tested resources and human services that SMEs can buy. So it all is going to be running on testbeds.eu, and this year 2 SMEs are going to come in order to test our facilities. Next year we are planning to really open it up to a wider, broader audience. Right, this is what we are currently doing, using all the stuff that we are doing, we have been developing in Pre-FIA and all the last 8 years in all the FIA projects with regard to federation tools, integrating the OneLab facility from the French, from UPMC, integrated to Seco Playground from Focus in Berlin. So we have an initial site with on 2, which is basically 3 plus 1 test beds coming here. So, last slide. Although we are still heavily working on this thing, we are already open for further discussions, inviting everybody who has ideas to join. There is a new call. We are not sure whether Fantastic is going to be funded again through EIT ICT funds, but we hope so. In this context, we invite testbeds from other projects and initiatives to join Fantastic in the future also.
Okay, thank you very much. We can have a couple of short questions and have a longer discussion at the end. So, any questions? Remarks? Yes, Donald?
Just one remark. The eTOM model that you have there is interesting. It's a very good way to structure a thing around. And that's from the telco world. The telcos world will move with kind of a velocity that's kind of pedestrian. And if you compare that to, say, Google or Facebook, that's probably impossible to get, but it would be really nice to see what model they use for new things. And there's probably something in there that gives them speed, because in the Fusion project we see that the SMEs want speed and quickness.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what speed you have there, but it would be interesting
No,
to see how that.
there is 2 things. One thing is the model that I use for conceptualizing and operating my facility, which is totally out of the scope of the SME using it.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't reduce or improve the speed of the SME using my facility. I use a blueprint for defining the processes that I require in order to serve a specific service to my customers.
Okay.
And there, the eTOM is very complex, and complex enough to cover most of the stuff that you would usually need in your enterprise, in your, I would say, it's like a cloud-based enterprise, where you have a testbed as a service, like an infrastructure as a service, like a platform as a service, like a software as a service. So, and then we went through this whole list of the operations, and we realized, oh, not relevant, but this one here we need. Yeah. Well, but this doesn't have any impact on the SMEs using our facility. It's only did we really think about all the processes that are in the end really required, like customer relationship management, billing, invoice, charging parameters, and retention and loyalty. What is happening if the SLA is failing in one testbed? And we need to be clear here. Our testbeds are not carrier-grade testbeds. So failure is happening. Yeah. What is happening if somebody is paid for a testbed and encounters something which is not operated? Yeah. I have to give him back the money, of course. But first of all, I have to detect that what I was promising to him, I could not hold as tested as a service provider. So this involves a lot of things more than just best effort. Hello, try. You have 2 months and see where you can get.
Yeah. Okay. Another question?
Okay.
Otherwise, we.
I have one question.
Yes, please. Yeah, Annika, go ahead.
For the pricing model, you mentioned very fast about the pricing model. Have you discussed that or set up some?
Of course, for hours, and there were discussions you wouldn't imagine, because this is the problem. Yeah, we are coming from the academic world, Annika, you know, and it is usually at the beginning of a project, you say, okay, you have 10 person months, and then you're part of it. And what is happening with your virtual wall or with your political playground in the meantime, nobody really cares, nobody really knows. But if you pay it on, if you offer it on an on-demand basis, and somebody can pay for it for the next 20 hours or something, you have to come up with a total different thinking. Thinking that for example, Planet Lab Europe never needed to go through, because it was a total different. It's a subscription model. It's you bring in 2 nodes and then you get access to at least 10 slices. Nobody was thinking about how much would 10 hours be in value.
Okay. Yes, quick question.
To develop this pricing model, should this pricing take place during the project when European contribution is in force and after the project?
Well, in the end, it's nice for testbeds to have double funding, triple funding, or whatever. This one here is expecting that the testbeds, at least through Fantastic, without any projects currently running, have already defined their prices. Whoever tries Fantastic already tells Fantastic how much it costs. His testbed.
Okay. Okay, yeah, maybe one point from myself looking at this, and in terms also of the integration efforts that you are pursuing, and probably jointly with other projects. You mentioned the FIA and the other. But what kind of bottlenecks do you think are most important in order to succeed in the integration that you are pursuing, and the kind of services that you want to offer commercially that assumes a customer target groups and insight in their needs in order to get that? Sorry?
Service level agreement.
Yes, yes.
It's the answer.
So you define the needs and demands in terms of SLAs.
The bottleneck here is that without being able to guarantee an SLA, the testbeds that we bring or provide to our customers can be only brought to the customers on a best effort basis. Hoping that this is working out fairly good or good enough. Okay, we try, but if people experience or SMEs experience that they cannot use the testbeds during the time that they have been paying for, we have a problem.
Let me put it a bit differently. If you talk about commercial infrastructure, commercial offering, what is this market then? What is the size of that market?
We were estimating it to 1.4 billion in Europe.
For what kind of services?
SMEs needing tested infrastructures to test their mobile applications, special apps.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, maybe we could go into that a bit more in the final discussion. So, thank you very much for your very interesting talk. And let's go to Maurizio Pezzi then. Yes, we have to bring you this equipment device. Oh, is it? Shall I try?
You can make it.
Okay. Let me quickly set it up and then. Okay, please come in.
Hello to everybody, my name is Maurizio Cecchi from Telecom Italia. I'm coordinator of CEFI that, as you know, is
the infrastructure project for the public-private partnership on future internet. So I'm not going through the explanation of what is the program about, because most of you know the program. But as you know, there have been 3 phases. The first one was the building of the platform and of specific components that could be used by everybody interested in Europe. Then the second phase with large trials and the launch of this infrastructure project, which is SEFI. But for this session, the most important part, I think, it is the third phase, because as you know, the Commission, is investing 100 million euro for SMEs. These 100 million euro are for 1/5 dedicated to accelerators, incubators, people that help to make the market fertile, but 80 million are for SMEs. So we are, everybody is expecting to have in this call in autumn from 800 to 1,000 SMEs. I think it is the largest effort by the European Commission in the ICT sector to foster the market. So I think it's good for the session to explain how, from the XFI point of view, we want to support them and what are the requirements that we are trying to gather, even if it is a top-down work, because it's not really a market that is coming only for the existence of the service, but is a market with these high incentives coming top-down from the European Commission. But basically, then is very okay. So basically, of course, the basic requirement, the same as the one that Florian said. The most important thing is having a common entry point in this very complex environment and a common marketplace. Usually, as Florian said, from the research side, we tend to offer very complex system because we know what is behind, we think that is richer and more effective, but really what we have to do is to conceive everything coming through one unique entry point. And this is, it seems easy, but it's very difficult when you deal with these complex projects. Then you have offer, of course, talking about this level of thousands of SMEs, level of scalability, of flexibility, and I think that we start trying to work to provide this at the industrial level, but I think nor SciFi or nor the present SciFi infrastructure can offer really an industrial level, so to satisfy technical people in the industry, in the market. And then having these capabilities and resources that are, in the infrastructure, provided in distant geographical areas. I will explain this, but basically it's not enough to have an access to internet, could be a best efforts or going through a connectivity with the service level agreement, but at the end you have to provide also real infrastructure in local place where you want to build services for your client in local places. And of course, then you must give the capacity to add very quickly new infrastructure. For instance, if there is a group or a network of SMEs that want to develop a service, then you must provide the tool to aggregate the infrastructure, the computing system or the wireless access they have. So they should not be only a client going there and grab what they want, but it's very important to have their infrastructure easily included in the whole network. It was the other way. It's simply So, in other terms, because in the program there is this offer of the software libraries that is generally enabled through the platform, the very important thing through this unique entry point is to enter, to compare, browse, and access whatever you want through this unique entry point. leverage of this advanced infrastructure, really choosing. So if you want to, for example, make a comparison of what is your LT with someone else in another country, what is happening, you should simply choose with the button this infrastructure and on the other if you are registered. And then you must have, of course, easy monitoring of the services that are provided. The best would be, like Florian said, to have also service level agreement there, but even if you don't have, it's important to have the monitoring of what is happening at the infrastructure level and at the software level. Mm-hmm. Then, so enable the SMEs at the end to focus only on the application itself. They don't have any hassle to find how the system is working. And of course, it's extremely important to provide tutorial help desk. For instance, in all our network that we show, we have H24, so service 24 hours a day for the whole period of the project. So, how is conceived this is the support from inside the public-private partnership Future Internet. On one side, on the left, you see all the components. Basically, this software component, general support, purpose that are coming from the platform, and then there are specific components coming from platform of the trials. So then you provide tools and operation environment through these common access portals, and this will help both trials but also commercial facilities. And for commercial facilities, of course, it is another story how and what is the limitation of the offer of commercial facilities when you have public infrastructure on board in the project. So, at the end, everything should be conceived technically, but also in terms of communication and image. So we avoided at the end, but we made many mistakes at the beginning, to present different projects, different infrastructure to the SMEs and to the user in a different way. So we conceived a unique branding. So there is a common branding and communication strategy. So in which, but for sure you have a unique common access. So you will get all the technology components from the program through PhiLab. Then you going through PhiLab, if for instance, as I said, you want to aggregate one infrastructure in the system with the PhiOps tools, you can aggregate your local infrastructure. The PhiLab itself provides the testing environment in which you can take the components, play, make some monitoring measures. And of course, you can go directly to PhiWare catalog that is the list of these components and software capabilities that you have inside the program. But it's really important to conceive this as a unique communication term and with a common access. So, but behind, even you have a common access, the system is extremely complex. We started in the first year with 5 nodes around Europe, that are the green spot that you got in the graphs. And then through an open call, we enlarge the infrastructure in 17 places in Europe, and we also, reach a good level of heterogeneity. So you have wireless access infrastructure, people offering a customized device, the energy resources. In certain cases, also user community available to do tests, sensor networks, open data system, and media services. So all these test beds are connected through GIAN, so at high speed, and so you can get through PhiLab in a unique way to each of this infrastructure. You simply can push a button and try to use one or the other accordingly to your needs. More specifically for the infrastructure part, as we said, was important the easy deployment of what are the tools that we offer. So anybody can deploy cloud hosting, general enablers, monitoring. So the monitoring adapter is a way to say how to monitor and how to upload all the monitor system in your house, and to providing basics of the new PhiWare, so new software instance. And then, of course, there are the two that I would say are more traditional, how to manage your federation in terms of registration, identity management, and the service in the federation. In the same way, you can, through the same entrance, go and try to find the best suit for your connectivity system. So you can manage across the different PHYLab nodes in Europe the needed connectivity services. Of course, we are working through a 1 gigabit speed, but of course in certain cases, if there is an access through external partner, it could be less. But you can set this through the system and then how it works. And of course, there are tools to improve the service offer. So including really the specific service for general enablers, so the general tools or specific tools. And in this case, the assistance that is level 1, level 2 inside the platform can identify and make a diagnosis of the level of use and the performance of even one specific component. Then, of course, if one component is not working, this request is going outside to the platform, to FIWare, because there are the people that develop the specific components. So the level 3 assistant is going then back to the FIWare part. So this is the specific one for SEPAR. Of course, as we said now, because there is a growing interest, but especially because there is at least 100,000 SMEs, we have a huge program of training. So we'll start in May, June. We have to decide Madrid or Brussels. But of course, is devoted to anybody that would like to use for the phase 3 project, and SMEs is automatic because they need this to accomplish their work, but of course it's open to everybody who would be interested. And we are planning also other sessions from September. First one in autumn should be in Munich for this, for phase 3 and other people. And that's it. I'm ready for it.
Okay, thank you very much. A few short questions. Yes, please.
Yes, I'm not familiar with the technical details of these cloud services, I can understand. But isn't there a problem of commitment? So this has been organized by large operators and companies, I can understand. But are these companies committing to the enablers that they are developing?
Yeah, of course, the direct commitment is from the partners of the project. From the telco side, there is Telecom Italia, Telefonica, Orange, Deutsche Telekom, as large telco, working on this. But in parallel to us, there are national grants from many countries, regional grants, local grants, but also private ones. For instance, we have GoEx, that is one of the most important Wi-Fi providers in Europe, that is, is putting their infrastructure in parallel to ours. So, of course, to have a complete commitment, you must be in the project, or in the future, you have to register and then accept the terms of the federation.
As what I mean about, again, I'm not too familiar, but I was wondering if the operators are committing to deploy the service which are, the application which are developed.
Yeah.
After on commercial basis.
No, the commercial, yeah, that is another interesting part. Of course, we are thinking, but basically we have two lines, a vision on two flows. On one side, there is the side of continuing and upgrade the public-private one infrastructure, where many public infrastructure are saying that you cannot use their infrastructure for commercial business. So in this case, you have really to go for Horizon 2020, structural funds, so how to conceive a public and private investment in the future. But the investment must be there. So private and public must have investment in the program. You can only ask for additional resources manpower than to have more effective impact on the market. On the other side, but it's only limited to the private one, that there are ideas to go to the market that it is, I mean, we are working on this, right, it's still in the project. But are very two different flows. So the question also raised by Florian, how to then conceive a commercial business using public, I think is an open question. Because at the end, if you go to pricing, revenue, how to share revenues inside the partners, including the public one, is really a very difficult question.
Just a small remark, but I'll come back to that because I was wondering, again, I'm not in that field, so, but how, because SMEs which are going to engage there, they are financed, okay, but if they spend their resources, they have to think about commercial exploitation, I guess. So how can they do that?
No, for the SMEs, they will bring their business model, etc. So how then they go to the market is up to them. I mean, because at the end, the SMEs will develop one service, utilizing capacities, components, and so on. But then, of course, in this phase 3, there are a lot of accelerator, incubator, so there will be support action to support them. But the business is done by the single SME. I mean, they have, at the end, they must do business by themselves. They can put together in a network, but it's up to them.
Other questions? Yes, please.
I have heard feedback from a lot of SMEs that they want to ensure that there is a security and confidentiality ensured in whatever is experimental. How and high is
Anyway, in this case, what is our main goal is to decrease a lot this level of confidentiality. By the way, all the components, the software, and the methodologies are open source and published. So there are no limits on how then the results are given, including the deliverable on the results. So at the end, what will be confidential is really the business model and the exploitation of the people who apply. But in terms of results, of technical results, how they use it, what is okay. If you want to participate, you should make open your results. You get money, you use public resources, you get a lot of support, training free, etc. The counterpart, then you should make available the results. It's a limit, I know, but it's a part of the game if you want to get it.
Is it a must to do this? Is it a must to do this?
Yeah, and the other synthetic results is to, you must make good public the results. We are, all the partners of SciFi, public, private are committed to make everything public.
Okay, any other question?
Oh,
yes, Martin?
Okay, there are now 17 infrastructures in the SciFi, or will be 17 infrastructures in the SciFi network. What if a higher facility would like to somehow be associated with this community? They would like to offer people the chance to experiment with generic enablers, maybe alongside
through the FIOPS, okay. We are ending now in March the first year or deployment of the system, so we start in April, but in a couple of months, in the 5 nodes will be ready, and then in another 2-3 months also in the other 12. But using the FIOPS, you should then be able to be part of the federation. Of course, then you have to sign the same agreement that the other signed, because there are certain conditions of that. But this is the technical part of the FIOPS that enable you to become a member of the federation. Of course, if you become a member from now, after the open call, you don't get the funding that the other 17 has, but you can be part of the federation.
Okay.
Wait,
Yes,
this
go
is
ahead.
one of the most important questions also for me here. Thank you, Martin. This was up to the point. So now, let's play it through, okay? We are in both worlds. We have the German node in SciFi, and we are in FIRE. We have in PPPFI the Cosico playground. Basically, they are running on so close to each other. Yeah? So close to each other. What would it mean for us if we would want to provide access to the FIRE community to the German node? then sci-fi, the FIPPP, and the FIRE program would need to talk to each other, and my focus needs to sign some data.
Yeah.
Because then it is open up to all projects in FIRE.
Yeah, of course, yes. By the way, it's open. There is only operational limits. Of course, if there is an explosion of one, but we devote a huge amount of resources for the help desk and training and so on. So you should be, you should be able to do this. By the way,
Wait. I mean, this is a legal issue. I mean,
yeah, you have to sign
for me, it calls. This is a call for a FIRE FIPPP memorandum of understanding.
But I guess the problem is that it's the test beds in FIRE that should agree on, for example, making cores available through sci-fi. For example, in the case of ILAB-T, we have submitted the open call proposal, and okay, we will be part of the open call, but it's a decision of us to reserve some of the capacity and to move it to sci-fi. I don't think you can say from FIRE you have to share or we are going to share, but you can, of course, make people aware.
Stefan, don't get me wrong. It's not about requiring FIRE nodes to share. It's already everything is there. Nothing needs to be done. Like physical playground is part. Could be tomorrow offering sci-fi resources. Generic enablers. Tomorrow it could. We would have no legal problem labeling it differently. It's only about the users. The users are coming to focus from the FIRE world now and not from the FIPPP world.
If you are a non-PPPFI entity, so you're not in project, you have to sign the collaboration agreements, the consortium agreement. It means all the part on the confidentiality that is behind. So if you sign it, you solve the legal problem. Then it's only a problem of technical matter, then how to get the tools, how to make operational in your
interesting. So if I would be an SME, maybe not part of those 800 being eligible for funding, I could come to Fraunhofer Focus. Fraunhofer Focus would hand out exactly this contract, or I don't know. Yeah, the SME is signing it, and then I can let him play on the German node.
Not exactly. If you are, Fraunhofer is already inside, but if you are another research institute, not being part, you as infrastructure, that you are becoming member, you have to sign the collaboration agreement.
Okay, and me and SME?
This is for anybody that would enter in the federation. So having the same, belonging to the same community. If you are an SMEs, in this case it's much more easy, because then you don't enter, you don't own the whole, outcome. You take whatever you want, so you don't have to sign. The 800 and 1,000 SMEs are not becoming full beneficiary of the program. They're third party under this clause 42, but it means that working as something similar to a subcontract. So they take the money to use it and so on. But if you are SMEs not belonging to the 800 and 1,000, you don't have to sign. You go to the portal and you use it as you prefer. So going through one of the infrastructure, but the single SMEs don't have to make all the legal signature behind. The infrastructure, yes, if you are in the infrastructure.
Great. Sounds promising.
But I still don't follow. Like Fraunhofer Focus, you are an infrastructure that has now, you exist in previous FIRE projects. You are now in ICT Labs, providing your services to SMEs with that portal test.com. And then you will also become
.eu.
here.
.eu.
.eu.
Yeah, also part
and also
here.
here. And if I take then the SME hat on, where should I go?
Well, everything has a different objective. Yeah? If you want to play with generic enablers from the FIPPP, which is a very special domain, which might not be sustainable for you, which is currently running on generic enablers, which are not commercial offered off the shelf, then go to sci-fi. If you need an infrastructure for LTE-based or machine-to-machine-based testing. You go to the Mosaic playground and apply for a Fit-for-Fire project. Yeah, and that would also be very similar to what you need to do in order to become an SME, which is applying for the Fantastic for this year. After that, from 2015, you would go to the internet and see, using a wireless testbed for exclusively for 1 week is about 10,000 euros.
But I think this is what I want to highlight is communication for SMEs, and of course SMEs are also diverse. So it's not only one we talk about a lot of diverse.
The first effort was inside the large PPP project, so to make a unique branding, strategy, and so on. There are a lot of works ongoing together with Fit-for-Fire and the fact unity will try as much as can because we are here to have a common view and common approach. Of course, reaching a level in which SMEs can find easily any kind of infrastructure from any fire project, or we are far from
there. But what are the biggest bottlenecks there? You say we are far from there, but I mean, but you are thinking in terms of modules that could be maybe assembled somehow, given a need. Yes. So how far are we from that situation?
To be far, because we are working in terms of projects. I mean, all the system is working based on single project and single contract. So in order then to make a more homogeneous entry point or whatever, all the project must be aligned and this is difficult because someone starting, someone is ending, entering, modifying their function. So the problem is that it is a dynamic evolving work. So someone entering the system must understand at what stage.
Then we come also to the topic that we wanted to highlight, the sustainability. I mean, EIT is an organization which has a longer-term sustainability. FIPPP has a temporary existence. Fire projects are evolving, following up, but projects are finished. So what could we do here to create a kind of entity which is, or a network at least, which is a bit more sustainable? What would be your views for the somewhat longer-term future here?
What has been conceived up to now, as you know, in phase 3, beside the SMEs and incubators, there will be also this technology foundation.
Yeah.
We take the best of hardware, of SFI, we go on, but the idea at the end is to build the foundation for this, because you need the long life then to build this homogeneous system. It's very difficult if SFI is a 2-year project. Then to satisfy all these requirements and then remain alive forever. So building foundation on this, perhaps using structural time would be the way.
We see the same development also in fire, the One Fire Foundation. I don't know much about this, but I've heard of it. One Fire, Ophelia. So how will that then, now we see different entities evolving. So and that's perfect, for the next years, but in the somewhat longer term, what can we expect? Kind of a federated foundation, maybe? Well, it's a bit speculation, of course, but okay. But we can keep that also for the discussion at the end, because we need to go to it.
It will always naturally be a come and go of testbeds, because this is the way innovation is going. Like, testbeds that provide technologies which are obsolete are not required in the future anymore. They may shut down now, so there is no point in sustaining them. So this ecosystem, and I think this is the mandate of the CI Fire project, for example. This ecosystem could be at least observed so that educated decisions for the commission on which technology to sustain or again fund, and which technology is obsolete, not required in the future based on market data, based on trends. So I think this is something which is required.
Yeah, sure. Okay, thank you very much, Mauricio. Now we go to Stefan Burkhardt.
Okay, good afternoon. Yeah, thank you. So I work with iMinds just to start, which is a research institute from Belgium, in the Flanders region, which is important as a start because the things I'm going to say, they are not coming from, let's say, a fully commercial point of view. So what iMinds try to do, for example, is supporting industry, supporting people, supporting research in the field of ICT. So just to keep this in mind, what we try to do here in this presentation is show you some experiences that we have from operating a local fire testbed, and how this can be used to see where fire might go in the future. So basically, if you look at fire today and most facilities today, most facilities are operated by academic institutes or research institutes, but also the people that are using the testbed, so the experimenters, are typically also coming mostly from these institutes. And I also put here down a very small icon of SME and industry, which means that there is already a bit of use today, but so far it's still underrepresented. So the question for the future is, okay, so how can we attract more experimenters to fire? Because of course, if you have more experimenters doing good experiments, you increase the relevance of your program, so you increase the relevance of all funding that's being spent. So can we make this icon of SME industry grow? Can we also think about new groups of people that could be using fire, for example, EIT, ICT, for example, FIPPP, and perhaps also other people that do not know of fire today but can be users in the near future. So this is a challenge for fire, but of course, attracting experimenters is also a challenge for local facilities, for facilities on their own. And so the experiences today here come from our own experience at iMinds, where we have technical testing facilities. We've had them for years, so they are quite mature. We have them so as well for wired networks and clouds and this and that, so as for wireless networks. So we have plenty of facilities, plenty of servers, plenty of technology. I'm not going to go into detail here. If you want some details, please ask me or visit our website. It's on there. But so it's important to see what I'm sharing here today is based on close to 10 years of experience of running facilities inside iMinds. Mm-hmm. So I'd like actually to start with two statements already at the beginning of the presentation, and the first one is on attracting more users. So basically, one of the things that we can see is that fire today already has lots of facilities, has lots of technologies, and then I would say that if you want to attract more users, it is basically partly about telling the right story the right way. So there is already lots of stuff. Of course, we can always change the evolve. But if we succeed in telling people what is there today, what it means to them, we can have lots of more users. This is, of course, based on our own experiences. So this could be that you say to academic research institutes, okay, you have research activities ongoing. If you use fire, we can validate your theoretical research. It can be very fine when you talk to academia, but if you talk to business and you say, okay, I can validate theoretical research, they might be gone already. If you can say to them, I can speed up your go-to-market process, you might have a bit more success. I'm coming back to this pretty soon. Second statement is, of course, that future internet research is always, and technologies is always evolving, which means that we have to keep up with what is happening. So this means that for local facilities, but by extension for fire as well, if we want to attract more users, we need to evolve in the right direction. With right direction, I mean that we need to continue to provide excellent technologies. So there are constant evolutions on the field of technologies, but also we need to match this with good services, support services. How can we help people in using the facilities? We need to think about which funding mechanisms can help people to keep evolving, can help people to keep using facilities. We need to think about strategies to collaborate. How can we invite people to work together with us? How can we make testbeds easily accessible to them? And so on. And of course, if we want to tell the right story, if we want to evolve in the right direction, it is about understanding the needs of the experimenter. So we really need to know what do people want, and if we know what they want, we can try to adjust, try to adapt, and try to see what happens. Just one slide to say that this is also an amplifier activity. So in the amplifier project, we have activities that are looking into experimenters' requirements. So basically, we're doing some, or we have done some literature study on what is available today, what do we know about the experimenter. And on top of this, we're also launching interviews. We've done a lot of interviews already, and we will continue to do this in order to understand which people could use fire, how do you want to use fire, and so forth. But as I said in the beginning of this presentation, so I would like actually to focus on our own experiences. So what did we learn on the demand, but also in general from running a fire test facility. So just to say, today IMAN's ILFT technical facilities are used for European research. For example, there are a list of selected projects. You see that ILFT is in many of the fire projects actually, so including Fetter Fire, the most recent one, also Open Lab, that was mentioned, this and that. I should have put a logo on top of this as well from Sci-Fi because procedure is not completely finished yet, but there should not be any problems. So basically we are there for EU research. We also are using our facilities for national research, PhDs, PhDs and so forth. We also have specific projects in Belgium and Flanders that help industry to work together with academia. So this is it's not bilateral research, but people really come to IMINES and they say, okay, I have this problem, we want to tackle this with a consortium, and then we can work together with them. And in this process, ILFT is very often used. Education is also an important point. Well, it's getting more and more important. So basically, instead of having specific setups for students, they are just using our facilities, which is a lot more efficient. And then the focus a bit of this talk is the bilateral research. So literally SMEs industry that talk to us and really pay to use facilities to get or to get benefits from facilities, I should say. So first thing I want to discuss is getting the story right. So I said in the beginning we need to present our facilities, we need to present fire in the right way in order to attract more people. So let me tell you how we did it in the past. Let's say a couple of years ago, whenever we presented about our testing activities, we had slides that were loaded with hardware, that was loaded with specifications, and we basically said, hey, look at this, we have these wireless embedded PCs and they have 2 Wi-Fi interfaces and 1 Zigbee interface, and we connect them all together. We have 200 nodes and we are very good at this. But of course, this is very nice for people that know what it is or what they can do with this. So we have immediately an idea. But if you go to industry, of course, they don't say this literally to us, but of course their idea is, okay, all very nice, but it doesn't really apply to us. So, for example, if there should be someone from industry in this room, I don't know, are there any industry people here? No. But typically, yeah, of course, I'm Maurizio and some other people. Typically, if you see hardware, you say, okay, very nice, and you forget about it. So basically what we learned is that having a clear message and talking the language of the people that you are hoping to attract is very important. And one of the things there that really helped us a lot is when we started to pick up on our activities to attract SMEs. It's a little over 2 years ago that we had a single contact person who is really, when people have questions, they go to that person, he will help them throughout the process. So this is one of the things we learned in the beginning. That person, by the way, is me, so if you are from industry and you have some ideas, please share them with me. So what we did to get the story right, basically we started from a research perspective and we thought, okay, so why are we using our experimental facilities, not of course on the project level, but in general terms. And then this is just a listing, it's not too important to see everything, but it goes from validating theoretical assumption, comparing solutions, observing how technologies coexist, prototyping, showcasing stuff, understanding how people use technology. Of course, if you don't have a demonstrator, you cannot test anything. This is basically the start of looking at what is really the value of the test that we are doing. So what we did then is we basically come up with a list of some of the projects that we were in, just as a benchmark. Some of them are also under NDA, so that's why they are blanked out there. And then we basically listed, okay, so what components of our facility are we using? And mainly I put here some virtual wall is the wire test, that's YLFT or the wireless test, but we also have some other stuff. And then we saw, okay, so of these different aspects, what is most often used? And then you start to see some trends. Where clearly it's important to determine performance using your facility, where clearly validation is important, where also in many cases we see that fast prototyping is important, going to market is important. So this gave us some trends to see where could the value be. Of course, this is still very abstract, so we came to reformulate this in another phase and say, okay, what is now the abstract value of testbed in different phases of research, in different phases of developments. And so we said, okay, when developing new concepts, we can offer fast prototyping, we can do feasibility testing, we can do benchmarking, so if people need to decide on which subsystems to select, they basically can use testbeds to benchmark. And when you are going to launch a product, for example, you can validate the performance of your solution, you can do some scalability tests and so forth. So this is a completely different message from just showing the hardware you have. And then you can even abstract this further and say, okay, basically when you come to us, you can design, you can develop, you can test your products more efficiently and more cost effective. And if there are people in a room in a presentation and they are not technical at all, but they see this and know, okay, there is probably an opportunity to save some costs or to do some things more efficiently. This is a message that might be there, remain in their heads. So a bit more detailed, fast discovery of go, no-go paths is important for industry. Prototypes are also important to them if they want to convince decision makers, funding organizations, funding persons, capitalists, venture capitalists, sorry. If the capitalists perhaps as well, if you want to convince them. So if you want to make informed decisions, if you want to have scalable, tested products, if you want to support the void support, of course, this sounds more appealing than a server. But then what we also realized is if you want to offer these kind of high-level services, it's not so easy to go from these abstract things to really programming testbeds in order to get this result. And this was also already shared by
I learned
Florian.
from you. I learned from
Yeah, well, but this is something we learned along the way, indeed. So it's very important not only to have the facilities, but also to provide access to the knowledge, to the expertise you have in running tests, so that people know they don't have to go through 1 million pages of documentation in order to be able to see whether it's of any use to them. They really want to have access to this expertise, to this knowledge from the start. So that is what our story is today from very high level. So we have the facilities, we have the specialized measurement equipment, we have it. And on top of that, we have the guidance, we have the support there from iMinds team, so which is the testbed team, but also the researchers affiliated to iMinds. And so this is a message that's a lot more clear. So what's important there? Personal guidance for each case. If there are any problems, people don't have to go to any page of documentation. Basically, they just contact someone of us and we will sit together typically 1 hour, 2 hours, and we'll discuss. So what are you trying to do? Is it something that we can offer to you? If we cannot help them, perhaps you know someone who can help them. And then this sitting together approach is something that we always market, so don't worry about is it something for me or not, just contact us and we see where it goes. And then we aim to offer a quotation to people within a period of 1 week. So this is also important, the speed. People, SME industry, they don't want to wait, so basically if they contact us today, by next week they will have a concrete offer. Basically this is template saying, okay, this is your problem, we understand that these are your needs and we can offer this to you, which might only be a part of their problem, but a relevant part of them. And then one thing also important, the last bullet, so if we know of any way to fund part of the research or to fund part of the tests, of course we will share this information with them. And in Flanders, in Belgium, we have some mechanisms that are specifically targeted to SME, to industry, to help people to do their innovations and to be supported by research institutes, so this helps us a lot. But there are also European opportunities, for example, and if it fits, for example, there's now a FAT4FIRE open call towards SME. If we see this could be a case that's going there, we're not going to write a proposal for them, but at least we're going to call them out. This opportunity exists. It might be something that's valid for you. Of course, there are some downsides to this or some advantages. So, but it's important to offer the whole packages. So when they have this document in the end, they know, okay, this is something I want to do. Okay, so the second message, keeping moving in the right direction. This is just a short list of things that we hear a lot from experimenters. So the academic shortlist is very short in this case, but it's important to mention clarity of information, which is, by the way, something that comes back in any for any person, academic as in the industry. People really want to understand what's there, and indeed you have these portals which try to summarize what's there, but still it requires some effort to understand what is available. So basically offering it very easily is important. The comment of please don't change too much is something we heard from academics as well. So they are happy with things today, how they are. They don't want to change everything so that when they come back in half a year that they have to learn again how to use the equipment. So basically they say, we're fine now and don't change too much. As me industry, some more points. The first one, clarity of information, just come back. But this is then for industry as me more linked to value. So for them, there needs to be a clear value. If they are convinced that you can provide them some value, then they are likely to work together with you. the cases we have, they really differ from simply using equipment to full guidance, meaning that we just are possibly even running experiments for industry, for SMEs. So some of the SMEs, some of the industry, they know how to work with clusters of servers, whatever, and they simply have not enough capacity, then they can just rent this as well. So this is a very broad spectrum, and anything is possible if you need this. So this also requires some complexity. Confidentiality trust, I was interested to hear your argument on the SLAs, Florian, because I must say, so far we have not really run into big issues with people asking for, hey, what are your SLAs, for example. But it is very important, of course, that people trust you. So far we've always been able to do what we promised. I can imagine if half of the time your testbed fails, then it's not good. But basically here it's important to set right expectations. We're not going to go to people and say, okay, we have a testbed that never fails, because it's not true. We say, okay, we have this facility and it might sometimes fail. Normally it works perfect. And if they have the right expectations, they don't really, at least in our experience, care too much about hard SLAs. Of course, this might change in the future. Confidentiality is important, of course. Most people don't allow us to change information. It's not in the beginning. Why is this? Because many people come with problems that are, they have ideas on new products, new services that they want to launch in the next few months, and they don't want this to leak, of course, to someone else stealing their ideas. So this is a bit we cannot always share the details of cases, but of course afterwards we ask people, is it okay to share some abstract form of this case? Then the need to move fast is very important. So it's as I said, so most often for innovative SMEs, for innovative industry, they are thinking of something they want to realize very fast. So this means that if you say, if I meet you today and say I'm interested, and we only have our next call in 2 months, most likely this will not lead to anything. So this is something that's non-academic, let's say. And then last bullet here is funding for innovation, which is clearly important. If you can say, okay, we can offer you this kind of infrastructure or this kind of knowledge, and you can get you funded for 75%, which is sometimes the case with the Flanders mechanisms. Of course, you have a very good chance of attracting people. And there I put under in small font, short procedure is more important than the height of the budget. So this is something we saw in the past. Open calls, European open calls, at least the way they used to be, let's say last year, it's simply too long for them because they only know if they are going to get funded in a couple of months, which is basically too long. Also, they have to have lots of paperwork before submitting. So this is something that's, I guess, very much improving in FIRE as well. And so the shortness of procedure, the simpleness of procedure is very important. Then there's just some the blue information over there. So of course, this is just what we saw from industry, but it's very important to prepare well. And if you say we're going to offer these kind of services, that you are prepared. You know there is a different mindset. People are going to expect a lot, and they are going to expect it fast. You need to be very service-oriented, and it's also hard to plan your work. So it could be that in 1 week you get 3 calls, and it could be that in 3 weeks nobody calls. So it's not always. It's a different way of working than typical academic projects where you have indeed a project planned for 2 or 3 years or 4 years. So this is okay. So final slide. Well, I think 2 or 3 more is so what can we learn now from this very shortened version of the ILabD story for FIRE? Well, basically we have to take 2 dimensions. One is to go from single testbed to FIRE as a whole. And the other dimension is, okay, so now I gave the story to industry as a me in general, but of course there are more people that could be using FIRE facilities. So these are mainly complexities. I don't have an answer here. So the first bullet is heterogeneity of testing facilities. It looks very simple now, our offer, but it was a long process until we came to this offer. To give clear information, clear value, it's very hard. It's hard to do if you have everything under control, if you understand very well what you can do and cannot do. So it's a lot more difficult to do it for FIRE as a whole. So I wonder if it's even possible to have a single value proposition for the entire FIRE. So it might be that we need to, for example, fragment a bit what we have and say, okay, for this kind of people we have this offer, for these kind of people like that. Second one, okay, so yeah, it's very much related to the previous one. So if you have different requirements, different experimenters, you need to have this person that gets in contact, then single point of contact, which is okay for a facility, but if you have to be a single point of contact for an entire federation of facilities, it's probably a lot harder. So how can this kind of personal approach be scaled up to FIRE? It's not easy to answer. Same with confidentiality and trust, so it's okay to give your signature to a single organization, I guess. If you say, okay, I'm convinced you can do this. If you say we are going to create a foundation, for example, if you say, how can I trust an entire set of testbeds, it's a lot more difficult. I don't have an answer here. Then, of course, technologies are always evolving, so staying relevant is resource intensive, so it's a bit a different point, but still, it's not because we have lots of stuff that's if you do nothing for 5 years, everything is irrelevant. So this will keep requiring lots of budgets, and which are likely going to come from public, well, from governments rather than everything from industry. Because I didn't tell this so far, but don't expect to make money from testbeds ever. I would say. I guess you can get some of your costs which are reduced, but you will never make money. If you can make money, then stop being a testbed and become a company. I would say. Well, stop being academic testbed. Okay, and then the lightweight funding mechanisms is also interesting, I guess, for two things, both targeted toward experimenters using facilities, well, basically then to support their innovation, but also for the testbeds. If testbeds, for example, could join a very lightweight way proposal, just being there as a testbed and not having any other obligations, this would be really be useful. Okay, and then just so beyond industry and FIRE, basically to know your experimenter, you need to talk to people, to discuss with them, and I guess that's what we are here for today. So we would be very happy from Amplifier, from IMI's perspective, I guess, everybody to just discuss what is possible and take the next step. Okay, final slide, final thoughts. So FIRE, I guess, today can already offer a lot, but basically it's a bit about packaging the things in a good way, of course, also to evolve in the right direction. And yeah, the last bit, just repeating again, so the personal approach, personal guidance, it's important. You really need to understand what people are looking for in order to be able to present them with the best possible service. Okay, I will stop here.
Okay.
We have some time for.
Thank you, Stefan. Thank you for putting forward this process-oriented view, which is quite important, and service-oriented view. A few questions. We are a bit running out of time, but we had already quite some discussion with the other speakers. So, a few questions to Stefan, and then.
A small remark is about the open call. Yeah. I thought also that the reviewing process was a little bit discouraging.
Yeah.
Because we had some really commercial SMEs when we introduced FIRE to them. They were very interested to use the facilities to do quite innovative testing. But they had no innovative products. So there was a kind of confusion between the innovation of the SME itself and the innovation of the test.
Yeah.
So finally they were one-one, so they applied, so they did quite a lot of effort, but not enough to be funded. Yeah. So I think it was really a pity that the review was not really adapted to this kind of company. So
yeah.
No, it's a better. I didn't check it.
For FIRE, it really changed. So we actually thought about the previous experiences to make the process better. And so it's sometimes one thing is, of course, there is now a call specifically to SMEs, so they won't get competition from people that can spend 2 weeks in writing a proposal, which is a first way to enhance fairness. Second, also, instead of telling to the reviewer, so it's about innovation only, and in the innovation definition that we all know from Commission, which is different from innovation at the company's office, is also it's innovation and industrial relevance, which is put on the same level. So people can say, okay, so this is perhaps not so innovative, but it's very relevant. Of course, if there are in the final ranking someone very relevant and innovative, they will still have the advantage over people that are only relevant. And this is something that probably will evolve in the future as well.
Other questions?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
So it's just more an observation. Presentation of EIT, there was mentioning of billing, that facility projects are expected to basically bill or receive certain type of revenue. In your presentation of what you were delivering in the past and what you are delivering currently, you basically stop at pre-commercial procurement. So I observed there is a certain area which is not covered and which is expected by EIT. What are you going to cover it in the future? What are your thoughts?
Well, so IMINES is a non-profit organization to start from, so our mission is more to help people than to really make lots of money. So how is this reflected? When we charge people for using facilities, of course we charge the cost of the facilities, but we're not going to take into account, for example, the fact that it took 10 years to develop. If you have to also charge people for the development, you come at prices that nobody will pay because it's simply too expensive. And if you really want to earn money, you probably will also need to change your services and to get in competition with services that are offered commercially today, like for example, conformity testing and such. We have no intention at all to do any activity which takes away business from the market. We really try to help the market to become bigger. And let me give you an example. We used to be good at, for example, testing wireless devices, and we put them in a facility and a test bed. We're still good at it, but we do not do it anymore because there's now a company we know of who started to offer the same service. So they also saw this is really an interesting service. People want to test the wireless connectivity on these devices, and as soon as we know that there is a company that does this and we get people with this question, we are not going to do it anymore. We're going to say, okay, you can go to these people, it's their business. So it's, for IMINES, it's not a goal to become really commercial. So
but I think this was not your question.
Yeah.
Everybody needs billing.
Yeah, we have billing, of course.
You get money.
Yeah.
You say, I saw it from the guys who said, oh, you made a calculation, 5 to 10 days, or so, support, and then you pay.
Yeah, of course we bill. So if that was the question,
you take money. You take money for the service.
Yeah. And you're not.
The difference is that with Fantastic you have to care about several tested owners. So you can book resources from several tested owners. One could be IMINES, one could be Foundation for Focus, one could be, I don't know, yeah? And you can book both resources. You can even federate those. You can even run tests across the infrastructures over the worldwide web. So, and therefore you need the billing, which is
Okay, so that's indeed we build people for the work that we do. We will not do work for free because then again we would be competing in an unfair way with the industry. So IMINES is obliged to charge people an industry relevant amounts per day. So our day rate is very comparable to what you get in e-commerce.
Other questions? One question from my side. You were talking about understanding the needs, for example, of SMEs, but often I can imagine that they don't know their needs very clearly yet in the beginning. So it's going through a process.
Yeah.
It reminds me of living labs thinking.
Yeah.
So in how far are these living labs oriented concepts applicable here? Because these SMEs, maybe they don't want just to have a very concrete definition of their need, sending it to you. Maybe they want to engage in a kind of process, or they want to use tools themselves to define what their needs are. So how far are we from that situation, that really the experimenter takes the forefront and takes the lead in this whole process?
Well, it exists today as well. So now I talked about the IMINES technical testing. We also have IMINES living labs, for example. And if I see people and clearly they are not yet, they might think that they are ready to test, but it might be that they are far from it, or that we say, okay, what you're trying to, if I see that their product is going to be irrelevant because there are already 2 million alternatives that are better, then I'm not going to sell them any tests. And we're going to say, okay, we have this living labs approach. Perhaps you might want to integrate your solution first by going through, in this case, ILAB-O it's called. So, and vice versa, if they run living lab projects and they see, okay, at this point testing might become really relevant, they just forward people to us. So, and how far are we from people really using facilities themselves? Some of them are using it themselves, but to be honest, most of them will have first had a project with us where we help them to set up experiments, for example. So a typical example would be we set up an initial test. We run some initial experiments, and then we say, okay, this is what we, the results we got from you, and then they might come up with a new version of their software or whatever, and then they can do the tests themselves, because basically at that point they can just start from the code or from the information that's available there. And then you have people that are basically just interested in server capacity, and they don't need any support either. Of course, the first time you always need to tell them, okay, this is how you book the notes, for example. But it happens today. Although it's, I guess the service is more important than the simple hire or simple rent of equipment.
Okay. I think we have to close. Maybe one final question then. Yeah.
One final question is just from your practical experience. Do you have a lot of interest in this federated resources? It's like from SMEs asking that I would like to do something if, let's say, this and that was available. Let's say if I could use federated resource of my minds and maybe something from Berlin or whatever.
From industry, not that they know themselves. Let me make that more precise. Sometimes you might see, okay, it is really relevant, for example, to have servers not only from our own lab, but to have servers from somewhere else involved in your tests. And then we might say, okay, it's transparent to them. So basically, they don't really know always what's being used. So far, we didn't do it. I guess we proposed one time to use Plant Lab, for example, to do some tests, but in the end, it was basically only our own equipment that was used. Because if that would be the case, we probably also would have to check, is there commercial usage allowed on these other tests and this and that. And I don't think we are that far yet.
Okay, I think we are at the end now. I would like to close. I want to thank all the speakers. Thank you very much. Also for the discussions that we had. At 4 o'clock we are starting the second part of this afternoon workshop. That by John. Yeah. And I would like to ask everyone who has not yet filled in the presence list to fill it in. Somewhere there should be a presence list. Is it with you?
Yes, Google Maps.